Hi, this is Pastor Dave, and welcome to Persistent Hope. We spend a couple of minutes 3 times a week helping you realize that you can live with hope. Now, it's not hope based on good feelings or hoping that everything goes the way you want it to go. It's hope based on knowing that you have someone who loves you, someone who created you, and someone who never changes. Now, this week, we've been talking about the faithfulness of God. That means God will never act differently than who He is. He is faithful. In the New Testament, in the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 13, it says this: if we are unfaithful, He remains faithful, for He cannot deny who He is. When I was growing up, I had a couple of buddies who, like me, looked for any chance to get out our BB guns and start shooting at something. Now, obviously, there were a whole lot of rules about the things we weren't supposed to shoot at. Sometimes we obeyed those rules. Now, one day, one of my buddies, Mark, came up to me and said, "Guess what? I figured out how I can always hit the bullseye." Well, I looked at him like he was crazy. So he got a piece of wood and set it up. Then he walked a certain distance away, turned around, lifted up his BB gun, aimed it at the wood piece, and fired. And you could see right where the BB left its mark where it hit the wood. Then, after he did that, he walked over to the piece of wood, took out a marker, and drew a circle around where the BB had hit. And then he said, "You see that? Bullseye." Have you ever felt like sometimes you think you're aiming at something and someone draws a different bullseye somewhere else? You think you're doing the right thing and suddenly the rule changes. I mean, Mark thought by putting the bullseye on after he shot, that was hitting the bullseye. But what had happened was he was aiming at nothing and then trying to call it something after he did it. You know, I look back at our culture. I look back 5 years ago and what my culture told me was really important. And then I think of today and what my culture and the media tells me is really important today. And it's a big difference than it was 5 years ago. It's almost like someone is leaving a mark, then drawing a circle around it and saying, "That's the new target. That's the bullseye. Aim for that." How do you know what to aim at when what you're aiming at keeps changing or keeps moving, or someone comes along and says, "Nope, you don't need to aim at anything"? No wonder there can be hopelessness in our world. Can I suggest that if you choose to live your life based on God and His Word, you will never discover later on that God has changed, or that the rules have changed, or that His love for you has changed. You'll never find out that the bullseye has been moved, because truth is always truth and God is always faithful. The book of Proverbs in chapter 3 verse 5 says this: "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take." Okay, here's my weekend assignment for you. Take a moment and pray this: "God, help me trust you more." That's all. This weekend, sometimes just pray this: "God, help me trust you more." You can live with hope. God bless you. I'll talk to you next week.